Imagine being 5 years old, struggling to hear the sounds in a word, let alone read it. Now imagine a game, bright, colorful, engaging, that quietly builds the literacy foundation you need without ever feeling like a lesson. Hello, my name is Melissa. I'll be presenting a research conducted in collaboration with Theory and Beth, which explores the enjoyment and feasibility of a mobile-based story listening game developed for preschoolers at cognitive risk for dyslexia. The study is part of a broader intervention project integrating envelope-enhanced storytelling and phonics training to support early literacy. The development of the story listening game is framed by the game flow model, which offers a structured approach to evaluating enjoyment and feasibility in digital games. In this presentation, I'll take you through the rationale, methodology, findings, and design implications of our study. Developmental dyslexia is a neurobiological learning difficulty affecting approximately 10% of children globally. Its core deficits in phonological processing often manifest early, and interventions are typically introduced too late. Early literacy skills such as auditory discrimination, phonological awareness, and vocabulary are malleable in preschool years. As digital engagement increases among children, serious games offer a unique opportunity to deliver literacy support in a format that is both accessible and engaging. However, sustained user engagement, particularly enjoyment and feasibility, is often overlooked in design and evaluation of serious games. Our study addresses this gap. We pursued 3 objectives. First, we evaluated user engagement using child self-reports as well as parental feedback via a post-intervention questionnaire, an independent evaluation of the game flow model, and story appreciation ratings. Second, we examined feasibility through question response accuracy and training adherence. From this data, we explored predictors of sustained engagement, testing whether initial enjoyment or early accuracy was more strongly associated with intervention adherence. From an initial pool of 71 children, 53 5 to 6-year-old bilingual preschoolers were included in this final analysis. All participants met the inclusion criteria, scoring below the 30th percentile on 2 out of 3 early literacy predictors, but scoring above the 10th percentile for nonverbal IQ and receptive vocabulary tests. Children were randomly assigned to 2 experimental groups and 1 control group. Regardless of assigned groups, each child played the story listening game over 12 weeks, completing 4 sessions per week at home. Ethical clearance was obtained from the Nanyang Technological University's Institutional Review Board. The intervention game was built in Unity 3D and comprised 48 sessions, with 24 narrated stories delivered twice for reinforcement. So each session included story listening, 2 comprehension questions, and a story rating. The virtual hub world visualized progress, and avatar customization incentivized completion. Envelope enhancement was applied to the narration for relevant groups, amplifying acoustic cues critical to phonological processing. Enjoyment was assessed through 3 converging methods. First, 64% of children reported thoroughly enjoying the game, and 89% indicated willingness to repeat it. Parental reports suggested high motivation and sustained attention across sessions. To evaluate how well our story game supported engagement, we used the game flow model by Switzer and Wyeth, developed in 2005. It's a well-known framework outlining 8 principles that define enjoyable gameplay. Let's walk through each element. For concentration, the game did a great job sustaining attention. Children were drawn in by colorful visuals, cheerful music, a fun hub world, and stories that came alive with illustrations. We also intentionally removed distractions to help them stay focused. However, because the story length and structure were fixed, there's a risk of habituation. Kids might eventually tune out. So in future versions, we're considering more varied pacing to keep things fresh. For a challenge, we kept tasks developmentally appropriate, focusing on story comprehension rather than decoding words, and the difficulty didn't change, which helped avoid frustration. That said, it also meant no room for growth or personalization. Some kids may have found it too easy, which could impact their motivation to keep going. In terms of player skills, the interface was simple and intuitive. Kids could figure it out without help and learned just by playing. But there wasn't any built-in scaffolding to guide skill development over time, nothing that supported progression beyond just play and learn. In relation to the control element, we gave children the ability to customize their avatars and use clear visual cues to support navigation. This gave them a sense of autonomy. However, during the main story activities, movement was automated. So even though they felt in control in some areas, the key learning tasks were actually quite passive. For clear goals, goals were very clearly reinforced, both visually and verbally. The repeated structure helped kids know what to expect in each session. Still, because the goals didn't change from one session to the next, some kids may have started relying on routine rather than engaging with intentional goals. For feedback was instant. Kids earned coins, stars, and audio praise for their responses. This reinforced participation. The drawback was that it was binary, right or wrong. If they got it wrong, the game just repeated the question with no explanation. This limited their chances to reflect or learn from their mistakes. For the immersion element, we created a familiar and consistent world with recurring characters and structured progression. This helped kids feel immersed in the story. However, the visuals within the story listening session were static and interaction was minimal, which may not hold the attention of children used to more dynamic digital games. In terms of social interaction, while the game was designed for solo use, we saw indirect social benefits. Some children discussed stories with caregivers or showed off their avatars. Still, the lack of built-in multiplayer and collaborative features meant that there were limited opportunities for peer-driven or social learning. So in summary, the game flow model really helped us identify where the game shines, especially in concentration, immersion, and goal clarity. But it also pointed out areas for improvement, like adding adaptive difficulty, giving more meaningful feedback, and better supporting skill development. These findings are already shaping our future iterations to make sure that the game meets the diverse needs of young learners even better. Now, based on this figure, the story appreciation ratings averaged 88% across both rounds, with minimal decline, suggesting strong narrative appeal even upon repeated exposure. In terms of feasibility was demonstrated through high question response accuracy. The mean scores ranged from 84 to 86%, with over 90% of questions exceeding the 75% benchmark. This indicates an appropriate and consistent level of difficulty for preschoolers. While all participants completed the intervention, only 70% adhered to the prescribed schedule. This demonstrates substantial variation in the training duration for children who completed the game. Delving into the variation in the training duration, based on actual usage data, we identified two distinct player profiles. The first group, what we call complete and compliant players, consisted of 37 children, or 70% of the sample. These participants completed all sessions and maintained the expected pace of 4 sessions per week. The second group, complete but non-compliant players, included 16 children representing the remaining 30%. These children completed the full set of sessions but deviated from the recommended weekly frequency. In other words, they may have missed sessions and caught up later, or spread the training over a longer duration. Now, let's dive deeper into a possible explanation for this. A regression analysis revealed that initial enjoyment, indexed by story appreciation ratings, significantly predicted faster completion rates. In contrast, early question response accuracy showed no relationship with overall adherence. These results suggest that subjective engagement, not performance accuracy, is the primary driver of sustained use in this age group. Our findings support the variability of gamified story listening for at-risk pre-readers, with design guided by the game flow model. However, limitations include potential bias from child self-reports and internal evaluation. Future iterations should integrate adaptive question difficulty, safe pause features, and session-specific progress tracking. Crucially, external validation of design features will be essential to support generalizability. To conclude, the story listening game demonstrated both feasibility and enjoyment in preschoolers at cognitive risk for dyslexia. Early engagement rather than accuracy was the strongest predictor of adherence, underscoring the importance of child-centered design. We would like to thank our collaborators, the families who participated, and the Nanyang Technological University Presidential Postdoctoral Fellowship for supporting this work. If you have any queries or comments, feel free to forward your questions to my email. Thank you.